So many times we get in these waiting periods, whether it's waiting to get a breakthrough, a job opportunity, or even to find your perfect spouse. When we get into this period of waiting, sometimes we don't necessarily know how to steward it. So it can feel like a desert experience. It can feel like a valley. It can feel like a low. But if we can identify what it is and how to walk through it in these different scenarios, then I think we'll all be better off. Today, we're going to be talking about what to do while you wait. Let's get into it. Waiting. Now, this is something that I can honestly say for me is super hard. And being a type I person, that means I want to run. I want to get there, the path of least resistance. And not even just the path of least resistance. I just want to do what I got to do to get there. I follow plans. So if you're like me, you're like, okay, give me a plan on how to get to the finished product and I will execute the plan before and ahead of schedule and it will be done to a T. Well, when you're in a season like me though, and God is like, okay, you know what? You need to wait on my instruction, and the only instruction is to be patient and rest. I'm like, oh, okay, like I'm antsy for a plan. And this was very, very hard for me because being a person that doesn't like to wait and that likes to get things done, this was a skill I actually had to learn. It was patience. And you know what? I always say, be careful what you pray for, because I had prayed for patience and to like be patient and to, not just with situations, but with people as well. Because beforehand, I was very quick to write people off. And I will tell you, a lot of people, they see me now and they're like, oh my gosh, you're such a beautiful person inside and out. Oh my gosh, I just bit my tongue out. Yikes. But they see me now and they're like, oh my gosh, how do you do this? And they call me wise X, Y, and Z. But to get here, I had to go through a whole shift, a change, all of that stuff. Because let me tell you about BC Kayla, before Christ Kayla. I did not give people a whole lot of grace, quite frankly, because I didn't give myself a whole lot of grace. And so with that being said, I did not necessarily know how to be patient with people because I was not patient with myself. And I'm still working on being patient with myself. And if that is something that you are struggling with too, you definitely are not alone. And I feel like this is a lifelong process that you get into. Nobody reaches the pinnacle of, oh my gosh, I have just arrived, I'm this perfect person. It doesn't happen, because as humans, there's always going to be areas that we need to grow in. But now that I am learning these things, waiting is something that was cultivated out of my prayer for patience, because I said, God, make me patient with people, especially as I started to date, and date with intention. It's one thing to date people just for the free meal at the end of it. I mean, let's be honest, ladies. Like, sometimes you'll be like, oh, okay, I want to go out to pop it up real quick. Let me see who asked me to go out on a date. Text back 4 months later, you free tonight? Like, what I mean? That's terrible, but oh my gosh, am I telling off on myself? And so oftentimes when we pray for things, God will not just give it to us. I wish he did, but he doesn't just give it to us. He gives us situations where we have to exercise that particular spiritual muscle. And so in my case, because I prayed, I should say, for patience and for rest, he has now given it to me, and I'm having a hard time waiting. I'm having a hard time because at first my heart posture thought that waiting meant being unproductive. It meant not being fruitful, and that was so far from the truth. So I'm going to give you a few tips on how I am getting through my waiting season currently. Hopefully they can help you. And if you have any tips, leave them down in the comments below. The first tip I would tell anybody is to make sure you name the season correctly. Oftentimes waiting gets a bad rep, but your waiting season or what you are waiting for may be giving you the room to grow as a person, to get all of the skills needed to go to the next level, because some of you all have some big dreams. And don't get me wrong, that is amazing. But if you are not prepared for those, then they will crush you. You will crush under the pressure of actually being where you are praying to be. So sometimes our waiting seasons are actually God trying to prepare our character to handle the good that comes with our next level and the bad. For some people, a season of waiting may be using what is already in your hands. This is something that I am still learning and am trying to act on right now. So many times God has given us dreams, and not even just dreams, but given us tasks to do. And sometimes we'll start to do them, but we'll get bored with them or be like, okay, I'll come back to that, and we never come back to that. Meanwhile, God is like, this is the ticket. This is what I want to use. A, to either help you grow, or B, to help somebody see the potential in you and your next level. And because we oftentimes abandon those tasks that God gave us, those God ideas, not good ideas, those God ideas, God doesn't even have time to really bloom what he planted in you in a previous season. And you're looking forward at next, and God is like, hey, go time out. You're trying to go to algebra when you haven't even mastered first level, like 1 + 1. So I need you to use what's already in your hands. And you know what? For me, this came came out in two things. One, my YouTube channel. Guys, Coffee with K, this was a Genesis idea, a God idea that I got before I moved to France for 6 months in 2018. I was consistent with it. However, when life got busy again, I kind of abandoned the dream when I came back to the United States. And ever since then, it's been a brand that has been on my heart. And you know when something is pulling at you and it's like, ugh, like it just won't let up. It's always been in the back of my head, but really being committed to Coffee with K and to growing this is something that I've always wanted to do. And this actually helped me get my very first job. A former boss of mine saw my YouTube channel because I wanted to keep the intellectual rights to it. And instead of going and putting me in a job that I was thinking of, he actually elevated me and put me in a position that it would have taken years for me to get there. So I'm saying your next blessing may be you working what is already in your hands. Another way that this is playing out in my life is that I actually started a business just before the pandemic. And it was so crazy how God gave this to me, helping small to medium-sized entrepreneurs and business owners actually, create content for their page. And I had started it, but then the pandemic hit and the demands at my 9 to 5, or not even 9 to 5 because I was working 12-hour days, it took over. And I did not have time to do the business anymore because all of my energy was going to my viewers and to helping pilot them through COVID-19. So with that being said, I loved it. It was cool. I got to meet some great people, but I put that on hold. Well, now that I'm in a season of waiting, a season of growth, I actually was able to make some income and make some pretty good income at that and get elevated in some levels as well. Doing my business, doing the thing that God gave me back in 2019 that I kind of put on hold. And even when going back to stewarding what is in your hands, guys, a lot of times we are called to be answers for somebody else. But when we are so focused and so stuck on looking for our answer, we rob other people of their answer. So oftentimes, guys, reevaluate what is in your hands and make sure you are stewarding your seasons correctly and naming them correctly. Number 3 is exploring other interests. I don't think enough we take the time out to explore those little things that we're interested in. Maybe you looked at something and was like, oh my gosh, I wonder how that was made. Or that process seems really cool. And then you just go about your day and you don't give it another thought. But during your waiting period, this is the time when you can foster creativity, the time where you can reinvent yourself because you don't have to be this or that. You can be this and that. You can be several things at one time. You are not unilateral. You do not have to just be your job description because your gifts will make room for you in different areas, in different industries, and in different spaces. So explore those interests that you forgot about and come back to them and see, hey, could there be something there? Or even take a step out and learn something new that you never thought you would learn, because you will oftentimes find that other skills in other industries could be an asset to where you want to go. Number 4 is making sure you are making emotional inventory of everything that is feeding into you. So when you feel like you have hit rock bottom, it is so important for you to make sure you filter what is pouring into you. That is why this is my number 4. So important, because so many times we're unaware that our music, what we watch in our social media feeds are all feeding us a certain agenda. It's feeding us a certain motive. It is feeding us a certain idea. And so when we don't filter through what we are being fed, oftentimes thoughts will pop up and you'll wonder, oh wow, like why am I thinking this way? Why am I feeling this way? And truth be told, it is because that's what's been pouring into you. Take inventory of your music. Are you listening to a lot of music that has a lot of death and destruction? Are you listening to depressing music? Are you listening to music that is not conducive to the person that you want to be, but is talking about people where they are right now? Are you listening to podcasts that are helping you to be the best CEO you can be, to be the best businesswoman you can be, to be the next, Oprah Winfrey, Michelle Obama, to write that book? Are you watching shows that are feeding your curiosity, or are you watching shows that are reinforcing some behaviors you need to change? There's just some things that I cannot watch and I cannot listen to in this season in my life. And no shade, no tea on nobody who listens to them, because I am not one of those people that condemn you, because like my cousin said, I don't have a hell to put you in. But for me personally, especially in this waiting season, there was a lot of my social media feed that I strictly had to unfollow, because when I would look at their pages, I would compare my life to theirs. There's music that I would listen to that reinforced that women were only good for their bodies and good for their looks, and it would be demeaning. And I didn't think of it as demeaning at first because it had a nice beat and I was like, yeah, but when I started thinking about it, I was like, if I want to see myself up here listening to music and listening to a man or even a woman call me something that's down here, I don't need to hear that. So I stopped listening to some of the music. music, even when it comes to shows that I watch. I know that because when I have time to think and be in my head, I can get toxic habits. I don't need to watch shows that reinforce a previous person of myself or a habit that I am trying to break in this season. I have to keep my eyes on the prize. And that means filtering out anything that is not going forward. All things behind me, all things are behind. You have to dust off your shoes and you have to make a commitment to filtering out some of the voices that you are feeding your ears and your eyes. I said ears and eyes. Your ears and eyes. And my last tip for you guys on what to do while you are in your waiting period for your next opportunity, guys, is to get into community. I cannot tell you how hard it was for me to overcome asking people for help. And that is strictly because I was always the friend that people came to for advice. I was always that person that people could come to. And so in my mind, I fed myself this lie that said, because people come to me, I cannot go to other people, because if I go to other people, it will feel like, or I am weaker in some way. And so I lived in this lie literally for years. This only broke like 2 years. It's only been 2 years. This K that you see right now is not the K that I was 2 years ago. So if you're meeting me for the very first time, hello to you. But yes, it was just something that I had to come over. I had to overcome letting people be there for me, letting people see me emotionally naked, leaning on my friends. My friends who lean on me, they consider it an honor to be there for me. And I was feeding myself a lie that said, oh no, nobody wants to hear what I have to say. Nobody wants to listen to my problems, when that is just not true. Because the same validation that I got being able to help them with their problems, they're looking for it from me as well. And so make sure you have a strong community around you, whether that be a group of friends. I have a group of 5 core friends that I know if I called them, whether it be to pray, they're going to pray for me, no questions asked. They're already doing it, but they will pray with specificity. I also have joined different groups, different church groups as well, because it is important to join groups of people that are in your realm, that are doing what you want to do, and preferably groups with more experienced people than you as well, because they can offer a sense of mentorship. I'm one of those people that love accountability, and I thrive on having somebody telling me, the steps and the pitfalls to avoid. So also getting a coach is good. I know that getting a coach is something that a lot of people have talked about, and beforehand I was like, maybe not. But if you are one of those people that strive on accountability, I highly recommend. You cannot go wrong with it. Just find a good one. Or whether it be a belong group at church, or serving in a certain ministry, or even just finding a good group of young professional friends to hang out with where you are. That is so important, because community is where it all happens. And if you follow the Bible in any capacity, faith comes by hearing, and sometimes hearing other people's testimony help you get through yours. And oftentimes we don't see really the leaps and bounds that we've made, because we're with ourselves every day. So it takes a community to call things out that they see in you for it. So I would recommend getting in community as well. But those are just 5 tips on how to steward or what to do while you are waiting. I do know that there are so many more, so I'm gonna have to do a part 2. There's all kinds of subsections. I'm also going to do one on what to do while you wait for a spouse, a boyfriend. That one is really good. What to do while you wait. On everything. There's so many things that we can talk about on this one. So if you have any suggestions, or you want to know what to do while you wait in certain situations, put them below in the comments. But until next time, guys, I am Kayla. This is Coffee with Kay, and I hope to see you soon.